Here we are at Chau Grey Vibol temple. We're on the west side. It's quite early in the morning. It's nice and shady here. We've ridden out east from Siem Reap. Chau Grey Vibol lies east of Angkor Wat, and it's on the road to Preah Dak, the ancient road. Nowadays you have to go down to Highway 6, the national highway, and then from Siem Reap along the highway and turn left to come into here. It's actually on Route 66. There's not a lot of information about this temple, but we know a little bit about the king that built it, Srey I. This is the restored West Gopura of Chau Grey Vibol temple. Being careful of the sun, let's walk up through this Gopura. And that's the pathway up to the temple itself. We'll go up there in a minute. Over in the distance, through those trees, there's a big water reservoir and some buildings. You can see the wall. And here's the inside of the West Gopura. Going slowly up this pathway, partly of laterite blocks, partly of the natural stone. You can see quite a few tree roots here. There's some confusion about the dates for Srey I. He was on the throne from 1006 to 1050, so quite a long reign. But there were internal wars from as early as 1002, and he actually claimed the throne in 1010. He was a Buddhist, but he allowed people to be Hindus, and there were several different sects of Buddhism, and he allowed them all. His actual palace was in Angkor Thom. And he did a few different works in Angkor Thom. He finished works or expanded works at Srey, at Phimianicus, and at Ta Kiao. He started work on the West Parade. He was the first king to build a wall around his palace. He was called the king of just laws. So during his reign, he made a lot of good rules for the people to live by. And he reigned for more than 40 years, so he had a bit of time to do that sort of thing. Hard work for me up this hill. You can see here a modern pagoda building and the ruins of the temple. And then you can see David coming up the pathway there. Srey I had 4,000 officials come to his palace in Angkor Thom and swear an oath to him. And of 40 years of ruling, perhaps that's what made it work.
At the top of the hill, we come to a clearing and the modern day pagoda. Just a couple of interesting paintings on the outside, obviously suggesting what happens if you've been a naughty person. Traditional modern day pagoda with the carved doors. Another depiction of people in a bit of trouble. Look, we haven't learnt a lot yet about modern pagodas. That's for another day when we start exploring them and talking about them. But it's just an interesting little place here, perched in front of the ruins, which we'll walk up to shortly. Here's the modern day pagoda, but a feature at quite a few of the higher temples is that usually you will find some beautiful, very old frangipani trees. It's not the right time of the year for flowering at the moment. I think that's normally about July, so you can only imagine how beautiful this looks in full flower and the fragrant smells that you get from those flowers. We're still on the outside of the wall of the central point of the temple. Some beautiful scenes here of the trees that have taken over and slowly ripping apart the walls. They can't really determine the true story of this temple because there's not a lot of carving that tells the actual stories, but there is still a lot of carving, fine detail on all of the walls, as you see here. This is a slightly different design that we haven't seen before, but we've seen many of these and many of these. Don't come here unless you've got good shoes and prepared to climb around a bit. You can see a wall here with a big window in it, basically nearly fallen over. It's an outer building, so possibly a library. The central temple and another outer building, possibly a library. And then lots more rubble. Be interesting to see what's under all this rubble, where there's some unfound artifacts that weren't plundered. So when we see some locals, Cathy loves to have a little chat with them, so we'll just listen in on what she's got to say.
Niam Rien, Bontai, J Tik Tik.
But young Khmer, no English. Không biết đây tay ọt trẻ. ọt gì vậy? Con đã chơi cái sắc này. Ở đây tôi cuốn.
Chà.
Sạch đôi cái gì à? Sạch.
Kun.
Miền con phần man nè.
Niam Mien, con Srey Pi.
Con Srey Pi. ọt ban mò tè. ọt ban mò. ọt mò chia muối. Con Srey bỏ lục Srey mò chia muối lục Srey ọt một tí cầm tí.
Môi khai mun, con Srey TP, mọc lên dương, nhà Siem Reap.
Cận lên Siem Reap. Con Srey mình lên như là Siem Reap.
Chinam Krawi, dương tàu Australia win, bị Preah con Srey T môi, Preah Dak.
Dây bình thường. Ai giúp con Srey T môi, ai giúp con thằng.
Go ahead, are you Saisabun? Saisabun.
Bằng đẹp cả. Phần nợ bằng du men.
Trong mơ rụt thọt con Srey.
Root toad? Picture of the children, of the
Yeah.
girls?
Now there's an old frangipani. So there's a handful of temples across Siem Reap that are located on the top of hills or mountains for religious reasons. We won't go into that. But from the top, we'll now go down one of the walkways. There's one north, south, east and west. So we'll go down this one down to the bottom where we have a storage area and we have the Gopuras or the entrances. Down below the main temple we have these long buildings here. Some people have written that they're probably libraries and others have written that they're called kliang or storage house. We'll have a look, we'll see how long and wide open space they are inside. Still relatively intact. And we'll go inside one of these long passageways. Lovely and cool in here as well. Built for short people. So you can see the roof still very intact. Strong smell of bats. And open spaces like a courtyard inside. So there's 3 of these in a row. Quite a size. So here's the Gopura on the east side. It's very big. Not restored. The one on the west was restored 2 years ago, built from the ground up again. This one, they've just shored up a few walls. Rather interesting with this one, very big windows and window columns. Very big indeed. I'll just put my hand up against one so you can see how big they are. They're probably about 3 to 4 times the size of the ones you see around Angkor Wat. So really quite big indeed. You can't get into any of the building here. It's still just rubble. But it certainly was a pretty big, impressive Gopura at the time. Just more of the other side of the Gopura. Total disrepair. And up in front of us is a wall that leads up to the top where the main temple is. A pretty steep climb when you look at this. Look at all of those rocks neatly lined up. So if you're game enough you could climb up there, but it's a bit of an effort for people like us. Again, the rough and tumble of these rocks does suggest that it was deliberately wrecked, and they say the invading Chan armies did come in and wreck a lot of the temples. It's not as if it's just fallen down due to poor structural integrity. It's been absolutely wrecked. And you can probably hear in the background a little bit of talking. Some of the local Apsara's staff's kids are hanging off our legs, giving a good chat in Khmer. And finally the North Gopura, or the north entrance. Not as grand as the others. See some nagas up there on the corners. Nice big windows again. So back in its day you'd come through one of the Gopuras, but that's not the end of it. You would then have to go up the hill. I don't know if you can see it, there's a fairly steep slope with lots of rocks to get to the top where the temple is. So there are 4 access points through each of the Gopuras. So this is the Gopura that was restored 2 years ago. It's the one in Best Neck. But as we said, they pulled it down completely and rebuilt it from scratch. Lions out the front. Right up to the lotus flower on the top of the tower. Just beautiful. And then down the bottom we've got a water storage area. It's not really a moat. 6 months ago it was completely empty and dry. Chau Grey Vibol temple, about 30 kilometres out from Siem Reap. Hour's motorbike ride. Allow yourself 1.5 to 2 hours here. Wear a good pair of shoes with good grip if you want to climb around on the rocks at the top. Not a lot of decoration, but it's certainly well worth a good wander around.